I call this meeting to order. Welcome to meeting number 18 of the House of Commons Standing Committee on Public Accounts. Pursuant to Standing Order 1083G, the committee is meeting today to study the main estimates 2022, 23, and the departmental plans. Today's meeting is taking place in a hybrid format pursuant to the House Order of November 25th, 2021. Members are attending in person in the room and remotely using the Zoom application. Compte tenu de la directive du Bureau de régie interne du 10 mars 2022.
Given the Board of Autonomy's directive of March, everyone should wear a mask except when you're sitting at your place. In order to ensure that the meeting goes smoothly, I will give the witnesses and MPs some instructions before taking the floor. Wait until I name you. If you're participating by video conferences, please click on the microphone icon to activate it. And put yourself on mute when you don't speak. 2, interpretation.
On Zoom, you have the choice at the bottom of your screen of either floor, English, or French. For those in the room, you can use the earpiece and select the desired channel. 3, a reminder that all comments should be addressed to the chair. Pour les députés présents dans la salle, si vous...
For members present in the room, if you wish to, if you're in the room, please raise your hand. Use the raise hand function. If you're on Zoom, we want to maintain the speaking list, and so we would ask that you be patient and understanding in this respect.
In motion, I am informing the committee that all witnesses have completed the required connection test in advance of the meeting. I'd now like to welcome our witnesses. Our panel includes from the Office of the Auditor General, Karen Hogan, Auditor General of Canada, Jerry V. DeMarco, Commissioner of the Environment and Sustainable Debt Development, Andrew Hayes, Deputy Auditor General, Liza Lamarche, Assistant Auditor General and Chief Financial Officer, and I believe it's Paul-Annie Pierre, Assistant Auditor General. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Paul-Annie, thank you.
Paul-Annie, okay, très bien. Assistant Auditor General, merci beaucoup. Ms. Hogan, you now have the floor for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We are pleased to have this opportunity to discuss the work of our office, including our most recent departmental reports. I would like to acknowledge that this hearing is taking place on the traditional unceded territory of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe people. With me today are members of my executive team. The Office of the Auditor General of Canada contributes to well-managed and accountable government for Canadians. We do this by providing Parliament and territorial legislatures with independent and objective information, advice, and assurance about government financial statements and the management of government programs. The Commissioner of the Environment and Sustainable Development assists me by conducting reviews and audits in his areas of expertise. We also support the development of legislative audit methodology and accounting and auditing standards, and we work internationally to build audit capacity and promote better managed and more accountable international institutions. Let me turn first to our 2020-21 Departmental Results Report. We provided this report to Parliament in February of 2022. As shown in our financial statements, our net operating cost was $115.6 million, and we employed the equivalent of 632 full-time employees. With these resources, we reported 13 performance audits and 4 special examinations of Crown corporations. In addition, the Commissioner of the Environment and Sustainable Development delivered the annual report on environmental petitions and the review of departmental progress in implementing sustainable development strategies. We also audited the financial statements of 90 federal and territorial government organizations and Crown corporations. We issued clean opinions on 86 of these financial statements. We also presented our annual commentary on our financial audit work. Our departmental results report presents indicators of the impact of our work. One of the ways that we assess the impact of our performance audit work is through the level of parliamentary engagement with our reports. Overall, parliamentary committees reviewed 61% of our reports. This is due to our special examination reports and some of the commissioners' work not being reviewed. I want to thank the Standing Committee on Public Accounts for reviewing all of the performance audits referred to it during the year. Internally, in 2020-21, we continued to map the future of our workplace, including an interim phase that has seen us open hoteling spaces in our Ottawa office and begin planning the modernization of our hybrid workplace. The work to replace our audit working paper software, which is critical in modernizing how we conduct our audits, has also continued to advance. We have launched a vast multi-year digital transformation initiative, which will renew our mindset, competencies, tools, and systems. J'aimerais maintenant vous parler de notre budget principal.
I would like to move on now to our main estimates and our departmental plan for the upcoming 2022-23 fiscal year. For the upcoming fiscal year, our total budget is $119.9 million. With these resources, we plan to employ the equivalent of 747 full-time employees. I'd like to thank this committee because your unwavering support over the past 2 years was instrumental in resolving our resourcing challenges. In addition to our financial audit work and special examinations, we plan to issue more reports on the COVID-19 pandemic response and on other topics, including protecting aquatic species at risk, processing disability benefits for veterans, and the surveillance of Arctic waters. We also plan to provide updates on past audits. Another priority in 2022-23 will be to continue modernizing our approaches, tools, and products. We will complete the replacement of our audit working paper software and focus on advancing our digital transformation and renovation of our workspaces. During the past 6 months, my office experienced its first labor dispute, which culminated in a strike by our audit services group of employees. Impacts of this strike included delays in some of our audit work and operations. Despite these circumstances, we continued auditing, and critical work was prioritized and completed. The labor conflict also meant that salaries were not paid to striking employees and that a number of large corporate initiatives were temporarily slowed, including our digital transformation and the renovation of our workspaces. This, among other unforeseen events, affected our ability to spend our budget in 2021-22. We expect expenditures to return to planned levels in 2022-23. I recognize that the most profound impact of the strike has been on our people. We have already begun engaging with employees across our office with the goal of identifying actions to renew the workplace and foster a healthy, safe, inclusive, and productive environment. We all know that it will take time to move forward from this experience, but we have taken very important first steps. Mr. Chair, I could not be prouder of everyone in my office. My colleagues are resilient, caring, and devoted to excellence. We thank the committee for its ongoing support and use of our work. We'd be pleased to answer the committee's questions.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hogan, Canada's Auditor General. Turning now to Mr. Lawrence, you have the floor, sir, for 6 minutes.
Thank you very much, and I'll get into my questions, but and I'll leave this. We don't need to discuss this at this point, but maybe members can think about it. I was thinking about ending this meeting at 12:45, as I don't know how much questioning will actually be required here, and then having 15 minutes for a informal subcommittee group where we can decide future topics. But I'll leave that there for now and just get in my questions, and we can talk about that later. Madam Auditor General, Ms. Hogan, thank you very much for being here. As always, much appreciated. Let me, my line of questioning will be following along the following approach, is that We're glad to see that you've gotten the resources that you have required, that have been asked for many years from the government. Pleased with that, but I'm a little bit surprised, and perhaps you can help me understand that the number of reports and quite frankly, the results aren't necessarily coming, even though we are the taxpayers are contributing significantly more, many more employees, increases in fundings of tens of millions of dollars. Or millions of dollars, I should say. And can we expect more reports and quite frankly, more results going forward?
So I guess I should take us a little bit further back into when we actually received our funding. So our funding was confirmed in the Fall Economic Statement of 2020. We had asked for only a portion of that funding to be received in that year. We actually received it on the last day of the fiscal year in 2021. In anticipation of that, we took some smart risks. As you say, we actually hired people because we knew the funding was coming. It does take time to onboard those individuals and to get an audit started and conducted. So in the year in question, 2020, 2021, we had 13 audit reports. Our plan for 21-22 is as well 13. That will be slightly lower, actually, when it's all said and done, given I had to delay the release of reports from March of this year to the following year. But in 2023 is when you'll finally see that impact. We anticipate that we will have upwards to 25 audit reports to provide to Parliament to study.
Well, thank you. That's great news, and look forward to those reports and going forward. The other area, though, is coming from the reports. Of course, the result that we're trying to achieve, as is to everyone here as well as yourself, is to improve the performance of the public sector. In my 2 years on the committee, I've personally been frustrated, and I imagine many taxpayers as well, that these reports are put in place, and yet we seem to come back to the same reports over and over again, whether it be clean drinking water, shipbuilding, public health, and we have the recommendations that just don't go anywhere. And 5, 10 years later, we still don't have any results. Is that a source of personal frustration for you? And maybe you could give us some thoughts on how we can get results from this.
So I too share your frustration. I believe I can also speak on behalf of the Commissioner of the Environment and Sustainable Development that he does too. Many of my reports in the past year have actually raised exactly as you mentioned, long-standing known issues with limited action. And I hope that at the end of a 10-year mandate, I'm not still doing that. Asking the government to act on known issues in a faster way. So I do think that it's time for us to, as an organization, follow up on really important matters, which we're going to do. We have a new product that is available on our website where you can search through past recommendations or results to see how the government is doing. So we're hoping that that additional pressure will help to drive action. Committees studying reports, asking for action plans will help drive action. So I'm very happy that the Public Accounts Committee is doing that. And I was very happy to see that the Environment Committee recently adopted the same motion to ask all entities who are audited to provide an action plan. So it's sustained pressure from Parliament, but it's also concrete actions and not just planning and strategies and announcements, but some real concrete actions from the government to see some change.
I think that's an excellent answer, and maybe I'll even go further. Some of your predecessors, including Ms. Fraser and Mr. Ferguson, I would say some of their reports used harsher, stronger language than your reports, just reading and observing those. And perhaps that's understandable given that most of your time has been during the COVID era and perhaps some grace was required. But if we see continued failing, can we count on your office to perhaps take a stronger tone at these repeated failures to achieve the results that the taxpayers demand?
I have the utmost respect for Sheila Fraser and Michael Ferguson and the work that they carried out. But as you said, I am the first Auditor General of Canada to audit the departments and agencies in the middle of a pandemic. And I do believe that we needed to recognize what every single Canadian was going through, including public servants, throughout the pandemic. And there's a balance to be struck as to how to respond to a pandemic and how to learn from what was done and move forward. But when I need to be harsh, as I was with drinking water, as I was with temporary foreign workers, I will be. And when the results are so bad, you will know. So I guess it's good to see that you recognize that I was recognizing the issue everyone was in, but then everyone should pay attention when I get a little more serious about matters.
Thank you very, very much. Turning to our next questioner, Mr. Dong, you have the floor for 6 minutes, please.
Thank you very much, Chair. It's good to see the Auditor General again. And I just want to say to I was listening to my colleague's question across, and I agree, if there's any outstanding recommendations that's long-standing, I think maybe we should talk about how to bring them back and maybe perhaps revisit them and update them and understand what's the problem of the holding. That's the job of this committee, right? So yeah, maybe we'll have a chat later on how to bring them back and take a look at it. But for the Auditor General, the Parliamentary Budget Officer has proposed requiring the publication of the public accounts to September 30th. What constraints are there on your ability to meet that deadline?
So I think there's constraints on both sides to meet an advanced publication deadline for the Public Accounts of Canada. The government will need to advance some of its deadlines and speed up some of its processes so that, and we can also find more ways to be efficient and effective in our audits. But it needs to be a shared responsibility, right? We can't just move a deadline and expect the auditors to do the exact same work in less time. So it really does have to be a shared compromise. So what's in our way is really getting information in a more timely fashion, and making sure that the government has a better handle on its data and providing it to us in a usable format. So all issues that can be overcome, but ones that need to be done collaboratively with the Comptroller General's office, the Department of Finance, the Receiver General, and our office. The Public Accounts of Canada is very large, and it takes some time to get through the audit.
Yeah, I saw those 3 volumes. It takes some time for me to even just go through them. So I guess it's better communication between departments. And so in terms of format, you'll probably get a better consistency going forward if you talk to each other. Could you please explain how your office selects topics of audit and how you filter suggestions?
So audit selection is actually a really key business process within our organization, and it's a very rigorous one that involves external consultations. I've increased those external consultations since I became the Auditor General, meeting with members of Parliament, both in the House and in the Senate, to understand what are relevant topics for you. But then we do go out and talk with deputy heads, and we have a very thorough process to look within departments and see what are significant concerns and significant risks. We consider what's important to Canadians. We do have an area on our website where Canadians can provide suggestions to us on topics to audit. And then we take all of this data and sit down together and decide what makes sense in the context that we're in. We do set out a plan for a couple of years, but that plan is not cast in stone. So we do have to reconsider it before we start audits if there's something more relevant that needs to replace an audit that we had planned to do. So we're constantly refining that process. And in fact, we've started within our organization over the last few months ways to identify ways to improve that process so that we can ensure that we remain relevant and provide work in a timely way to Parliament.
That's good. That's good. And under the current government, you also talked about this earlier, your annual funding has gone up by 50%, but your office continued to produce roughly the same amount of financial and performance and special audits. Can you explain that what's driving this result? Is it the cost of labor? Is it the complexity of the report, or perhaps some current event or some other reason?
I just want to make sure that I understand the question, Mr. Chair. What's causing the fact that we received additional funding and work has not increased?
That's right. The outcome, the output has basically has stayed the same.
All right. So on our front, let's start with our financial audit work. We had received many new financial audit mandates over several years between 2017 and 2021 when we received funding that had not been funded. And so we were redirecting resources to do those audits. So it was nice to finally get some funding so that we could increase some of our financial auditors. We then freed up those resources and returned them to do performance audit work. As I mentioned earlier, it takes time. We even actually hired during the pandemic 150 people in the organization. It takes time to onboard those people, to train them. Many of them do not have audit skills, so we had to train them. Then selecting audits and then getting audits done. An audit on average takes about a year to be completed. And so as those resources trickled in, you'll start to see the increase in our output in 2023. Where we expect that we will go back up to 25.
That's what I want to hear. That's great. And just I forgot to ask, when you talk about consulting with stakeholders and general public on selecting the topics of audit, do you also consult with MPs? And if you do, how do you make that selection? Like you just like randomly pick MPs from different parties and consult with them, or how do you consult with MPs at all?
We absolutely consult with MPs. We often receive letters from many members of parliament, and we do consider those and add them to the mix of topics to audit. I have not yet met with this committee, but typically I do sit down with the Public Accounts Committee and ask all of you about your thoughts and inputs on areas that we should go to. And we have done so with senators, and we will continue to do so. Those are all data points, as I mentioned, that we put into the bucket and consider what the most relevant audits should be.
That's great.
I'm afraid that is, and I'm afraid that's time for now. A good round, and noted on that meeting. We will be doing that, Ms. Hogan, when we're all back in Ottawa together. So just bear with us. But thank you. Tourne maintenant, Madame Sinclair-Desgagnés. Vous avez la parole pour 6 minutes, s'il vous plaît.
Ms. Sinclair-Gagné, 6 minutes. I'd like to thank all the witnesses for coming here today. You do work that is fundamental to a democracy, finding out whether the money is spent wisely. Clearly, this is very important for our system, and we're privileged here to be able to participate in this meeting and have access to your studies. It's through this committee that a few years ago we uncovered the big sponsorship scandal, and these reports are extremely important. We have to remember that we have an important role to play here. Now, I have 2 questions for you, Ms. Auditor General. First of all, the expenditures that are not set out in the budget, for example, in 2018, you did an additional audit for Trans Mountain. All of these expenditures that are not initially foreseen in the budget, monies that are set aside to help regions hit by natural disasters or help one sector or the other. We can't always foresee what's going to happen. How do you manage this? How do you deal with this type of scenario? I think you just had one question, if I understood correctly. Yes, I think everyone plays a very important role for accountability, and I take my role very seriously. I find that this is a privilege to be in this position. When there are expenses that are not forecast in the budget, yes, we look at this issue, we audit the expenses, but as far as performance is concerned, to see whether the monies were spent wisely and that there was added value, it will depend whether or not the issue comes into the pool of studies that we're doing. And thank you. And based on your experience over the past few years, have there been a lot of expenditures of this nature? Having the government buy Trans Mountain, certain regions have had to deal with natural disasters. Do you think that the OAG has looked at most of these events or few? That's a very interesting question. Over the past 2 years, well, the expenditures have been significant, and they have not been forecast. Yes, we've looked at a lot of details, and we continue to do so. We look at the programs associated with the pandemic. I would say, yes, we have studied most of the issues. We're joint auditors for pipelines, and but we don't look at the performance side of things. Indeed. So that's perfect. Now my second question. Do you think, knowing the importance of the Crown corporations, do you feel that the audit that was done based on accounting principles, yes, we know all about that, do you think that this is adequate to really be able to look at and compare expenditures? I'll give you an example. I think there's a telephone that's ringing in the room. Okay. So do you feel that from the audit side, that we do enough work for Crown corporations, or can we do more? Can we standardize the way we do audits for Crown corporations? I'll begin by saying that I think that the Auditor General of Canada should be the auditor of all Crown corporations, because all the expenditures come through the government. But financial audits are adequate to give us opinions with respect to the statements. But the information you're looking for based on Tuesday's meetings, this is additional information. I confess it's very difficult to get a good handle on big programs within the Crown corporations, because you have to look at the Crown Corporation annual reports in order to be able to get access to all the information. So yes, there is a shortcoming in terms of information that's accessible as for specific issues. So I think that I'd like to work with you to understand where you would like to see more work done. Good. I think I have just 10 seconds, so I will stop there. Thank you very much.
Mr. Desjardins, you have the floor for 6 minutes, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and I want to thank the Auditor General for being with us today. And I really want to just highlight how thankful I am for your remarks at the beginning related to what I believe to be a very historic moment for the Auditor General's office, in the sense that there was its first strike. Coming from the workers' movement, coming from labor, as you know, I'm sure you probably expect that I would ask questions related to this very deeply troubling reality that's facing our public service, which is the fact that many employees are feeling the environment that's currently being provided is inadequate to their success and to their productivity. And so coming out of that strike, of course, I work very closely with members of the public service, particularly the Public Service Alliance of Canada, and trying to make sure that there's accountability for employers across the board. But you mentioned that the goal in this healing process in many ways is to foster a diverse and inclusive environment where the health and wellness of staff is paramount, where employees have opportunities for learning and growth, and where culture helps attract and retain diverse, skilled, and engaged professionals. This includes providing safe, flexible, hybrid working environments with the tools needed to enhance collaboration. Coming from the workers' movement, coming from collective bargaining myself, I know that oftentimes when when we settle a collective bargaining process, that the employer may, at time, take that opportunity, since the strike is no longer valid, to discipline members within that action group, Can the Auditor General confirm to me today that there is no such disciplinary action for those who participated in the strike?
So I am not aware of any activities that actually require a discipline right now. I do know that we have many employees who were quite emotional during the strike, as is understandable. But we reminded all our employees that you're always a public servant and that you need to respect and maintain our code of conduct and code of ethics when you're at work and when you're not at work. But there is I am not aware right now of a disciplinary action against any of our employees.
Thank you very much for that response. And just to confirm, in the instance where a potential disciplinary action is taken, are you directly informed?
It would depend on the nature of the disciplinary action. There are always work plans to help improve productivity of individuals. I would not be made aware of all of those plans, but disciplinary actions that might have an impact on salary compensation or that would result in revoking security clearances or terminations, those I would be made aware of, yes.
How do you intend to truly foster a healing environment, considering that the level of mistrust between the employer and the employees at this time is quite fragile, in the sense that your conduct in your office has resulted in the very first strike?
So the level of mistrust that you talk about is something that I think's been longstanding in our organization. The organization for many decades has operated in a bit of a silo fashion. I think many departments could say the exact same things. In fact, I find that in many audits that there are areas of departments that just don't talk to other areas. It's something that we need to address as an organization, absolutely. And I firmly believe that every member of our organization is valuable and contributes in a very meaningful way to us delivering all of our audits. And so our healing process will include dialogue with all of the members of the organization so that they can contribute to how we would like to work better and be better together. So it has already started. We have hired services from Health Canada to help us in that endeavor. And so far, I'm hearing very positive feedback about the openness, the willingness, and the desire for people to talk about what's gone on over decades and how we can be different going forward.
Now, just my final question. In relation to the audit service group, they were told in many instances during this strike that they were not professionals of the department. This has resulted in them feeling very much as though they have very little respect in the workplace. Do you seek to remedy this, and are they professional employees?
So I can't speak to the comments that every individual within an organization might make, but I fully believe that all of the individuals in our organization are professional. Everyone brings a very different, unique competency to the organization. We have communication specialists and procurement specialists, contracting specialists. Everyone is a professional in their field and should be recognized as such. And now it's about the entire organization recognizing the value and the diversity of skills that each member brings to the table, and how can we leverage that to just be a better organization going forward.
This is the need for a cultural shift. I hope you can see that, in the sense that it was a lot of people. It was a massive amount of the ASG group that felt this way, a massive group. And if they continue to feel this way, I'm concerned that I don't have confidence in the office's ability to truly respect their employees, which means they won't have the true ability to audit the departments that Canadians need them to, in the sense that we have full integrity in them. So in the sense that the audit service group and their feelings of not being respected, is there a special plan to ensure that the audit service group feels included, respected, and that the management truly understands what they're going through? Because the feeling of disrespect is probably the most common thing I heard on the picket line just outside our office here for weeks and weeks and weeks. They told us how disrespectful they felt.
The time is up. The auditor will have to try to answer that on a future round of questioning. I'm turning to the second round now, and I do believe there is consensus to go through the second round, and then at which point we will turn to the votes on the estimates, and then suspend for an in-camera meeting for the last 15 minutes. If that's not the case, if someone objects to that, if you could just maybe go talk to the clerk. But that's my understanding, is that we'll do this last round and then turn to committee business. So turning now to Mr. Duncan, you have the floor, please, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the Auditor General for being here again today. Welcome back. I want to pick up again on some of the comments. We spoke about the budget, and there's been different members that have raised this, of the expenditures for the office going from 87.6 million to 114 million, and the number of employees increasing. I'm looking here at the tables that were provided to us, going up by about 180 employees. And the number of audits that are to be tabled as you get onboarded and ramped up is obviously something. But I want to speak to the efficacy, and Mr. Lawrence was raising this as well. The follow-up that I believe is lacking, and want to make sure that perhaps of those increased resources, how much is really going to following up on some of the reports that have already been done and the recommendations that have been given to make sure the departments are actually doing what they said they were going to do. And I want to give an example, if I could, through the recent correspondence we received from Indigenous Services Canada regarding their progress in the Auditor General's report in 2018. Section Recommendation 2 talks about the negotiation of regional education agreements. And in the report that Public Accounts did in 2018, it, quote, concluded that Indigenous Services Canada has not satisfactorily measured Canada's progress in closing the socio-economic gaps between on-reserve First Nations people and other Canadians, that it has not adequately reported on this progress, and that it has not made proper use of data to improve education programs. That was back in 2018. We just received correspondence from the department recently through the chair that says that they're unable at this point to still finalize some of these numbers, and they're asking to have until March 2023, 5 years after this original report, to criticize them for not being able to do reporting properly and use data properly is taking 5 years to put some of these reports together. Could you speak to about the teeth that you have and the staffing resources you're dedicating to following up with these departments, and perhaps being a bit more assertive and saying, excuse me, to this department, this is unacceptable that it's taking 5 years and a scathing report to get certain key aspects back?
So I do recognize the need for us to follow up on important audit work. Now, every audit we do is important, and so it's hard to do a follow-up on every single audit. We have devoted a team, as I mentioned, to a new product that we launched this past year on following up on results measurement. That team is going to be updating that right now on an annual basis, and we'll try to do it more regularly if we can. It is picking certain key results or certain key recommendations and going back to departments and asking them to demonstrate to us whether or not they have taken the appropriate action. So I do encourage you to go visit our website to take a look at that. It is a new product in its infancy, and we hope to keep working on it. But we do, throughout our audit selection, pick certain topics to go back and revisit. In fact, there's an audit coming out on correction services, which follows up on 3 previous audits. So we do try to find topics and devote a whole audit to them as well.
And so just in the increased funding that you've been provided and the increased number of human resources, the actual numbers, full-time equivalents or whatever the number may be, what percentage are you dedicating to following up? And I go back again, and here's the problem. Websites are great. Posting it online is great. I even find myself as a member of Public Accounts getting overwhelmed with reports and numbers and data sets. But what resources are you going out? We're using your voice to go back to a department. In this case here, 5 years to properly respond to a report that ripped them for not being able to adequately report or use data properly. They're proving themselves right in the sense that it's taking 5 years to do this. So, okay, yes, you're putting it, tabling it online, and you're saying the department needs an extra year. What resources and you know, the teeth that your department, that your office is using to say, excuse me, no, we're not going to post something on the website. We're going to follow up and go back to Public Accounts and say, Indigenous Services Canada as being completely unacceptable in their timeframes and reasoning. We criticize their need to get their act together. They still haven't done that in some regards. What resources are you dedicating to provide us or Canadians through your voice to say, not just providing transparency what's not being done, but how it's being done?
I actually don't have a percentage to give you to tell you what resources that we've devoted to follow up work. We don't really line up or staff ourselves that way. I could probably look into it and tell you how much we've done over the past year. And then we'd have to be intentional, I guess, about planning in order to provide you with a specific percentage. I think that there's a dual role, however, that committees play in addition to us. And so I was really happy to see that there will be another hearing on drinking water. Unfortunately, we don't have the resources to go in and do a follow-up. So we're going to be there to hear what the department has to say and maybe eventually get to a follow-up. But as I say, an audit takes a good 12 months. And
Thank you very
so
much,
many areas
Ms.
to
Hogan.
cover.
I have to move on here, but I appreciate those remarks. It was a good round. Turning now to Ms. Yip, you have the floor for 5 minutes, please. Over to you.
Thank you, Ms. Hogan, for the important work that you and your team do in holding the government and agencies to account, and also informing Canadians about what your office does through communicating through social media as well as through the website. So my first question is in regards to revenue, and it is in reference to Volume 2, page 35, Section 8. What are the revenue streams for the OAG?
I believe your references are in the Public Accounts of Canada. I'm not sure I know them by heart, but our revenue streams are really parliamentary appropriations. We do have the authority to do some international audit work on a cost recovery basis. So we do have some revenue there, which is meant to recover costs for 2 international jobs that we do.
Is there any plans to increase your sources of revenue, especially since there was a decrease of 44% from the previous year?
I must admit, Mr. Chair, I'm not sure I understand the question. Any plans to increase our sources of revenue? I think if Parliament would like to increase our budget so that we could do more work, we'll never say no.
Aside from that, but is there any other sources of revenue, perhaps the training, the international
Mr. Chair, my office does not have the authority to have expendable revenue other than for our international jobs. I don't know, perhaps Mr. Hayes, I saw you look like you'd like to jump in. So, Andrew.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to address the revenue drop, which was largely attributed to the fact that for the international jobs, we didn't travel, and some of the cost recovery revenue stream would be from recovering travel costs. So, with the pandemic, maybe allowing for more travel in the future, we might see that number bump up. But again, I'd just like to emphasize that it is on a cost recovery basis.
Thank you. In the last session, it was indicated that the OAG did not apply enough GBA Plus to your office. Has that improved?
Absolutely. We made a commitment as an executive team to take diversity, equity, and inclusion very seriously. We've taken many steps and we've started our process to analyze all of our own policies from a GBA Plus lens. One of the most important things we did as we started out with that was actually to target our hiring, recruiting, and retention practices. And I am very happy to see that we have out of the 150 people we hired over the pandemic, about 44% of them identify as visible minorities. There about 32% of the individuals promoted internally are visible minorities. And so we are taking a stab at improving our equity across the organization, but also at gathering the right data so that we understand our own demographics and that we make sure that our office considers those in the adjustment of our policies going forward.
Has there been any changes at the senior management level with respect to the GBA Plus?
Absolutely. On our executive team, I recently hired Paulanie Pierre, who is here with us today. We have also had a handful of promotions into our principal level, which is one of our the level that is responsible for carrying out all of our audits. And a couple of those individuals were from visible minority groups as well as disability groups. And so we are taking very intentional action. While the progress might be slow, it is definitely trending in the right direction.
Well, that's good to hear. In your opening statement, you mentioned that you continue to map the future of your workplace, and in the interim phrase that it has allowed you to have an open hoteling space in your Ottawa office. What is that?
So prior to the pandemic, every individual in our organization had a dedicated workspace, whether it be a closed office or a cubicle. Throughout the pandemic, we have asked everyone to come in and depersonalize, so to pick up their personal effects. And now we've opened hoteling workstations where you can register online, indicate that you're coming into the office, and that you're assigned a workstation while you are there. It's to reflect the fact that we hired so many that we don't have as many workspaces for all those people if everyone wanted to come in every day. But it encourages people to have the luxury of working from home, but recognize the importance of coming in together with their team to collaborate and work together. That will be the future of our office as we reduce our square footage and only have hoteling workspaces available for our employees to come in together to collaborate.
Thank you very much. I'm afraid that the time has expired. Maintenant, la députée Saint-Claude Desgagnés.
Ms. Sinclair Desgagnés, 2.5 minutes. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think that my colleague, Mr. Lawrence, mentioned that we'll be finishing this session soon, and that this is going to be the last round. Yes, that's correct. This will be the last round. Okay. So, in terms of logistics, there has been a delay, as my colleague mentioned. What reports have been delayed, and when do you think that you'll be able to play catch up? And the strike had an impact on public reports and on the commissioners' reports. My reports were supposed to be tabled in March. They will be tabled at the end of May. And the delay will be in releasing our reports to the public. As for digital modernizations, renovation of our workspace, this has all been delayed. And at this point, I really can't give you an exact date as to when we catch up. But we are allowing our employees to come back at their own pace after this strike. You said that this will come out in May, but you don't know when the others are going to be able to come out? I'm sorry. I don't expect there'll be any delays for the other reports. We will be tabling our reports in October and in November of 2022. This really only had an impact on the time that these things were tabled. Perhaps one final question then, with respect to the expenditures that have not been forecast, setting aside the pandemic. Before that time, did the OAG take a look at not only the financial side of things, but also the performance side of things? I think that as for these unexpected costs, it has really taken on an order of magnitude for all of the country. But we have to acknowledge that between 2017 and 2021, there was, because of our lack of resources, we weren't able to really do this work. Beforehand, we were much more agile, and I hope that we're going to be able to react much more quickly to these unexpected incidents. And I'm sorry, your time has elapsed.
Shelley, you have the floor for 2 minutes, 30 seconds.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And just want to return to my last point about the ASG group feeling disrespected and really part of the reason why the strike largely happened. And I think that there's ways to prevent this, Ms. Hogan, in the sense that we can ensure that the safety of those employees who went on strike do not see disciplinary action. I'll be paying very close attention to this, and I'll be working with members of the Public Service Alliance Canada to ensure that our workers feel truly protected in this, what is a fragile relationship at this point. And I hope to see that the Auditor General and your team take a very serious, comprehensive, and deep understanding as to how your office has truly impacted these employees for, as you mentioned, decades, and how now is the time to ensure that we correct this issue and rebuild integrity in the office. Would you agree?
I appreciate the opportunity to be able to respond to your statements from before and the most recent ones. As I mentioned, I think this sense of value has been one that has been within our organization for much time. When I first became Auditor General, well before the strike occurred, we had launched an initiative to look at our culture and with our organization to define what our culture should be. That work has not slowed. In fact, we're all now more united behind it in order to know that a culture change is needed, and a culture change takes a long time. But there are so many people who are happy to work at it because every single member of our organization sees the value in our work. And so we were just going to continue and build off of the work that started before the strike that will continue afterwards.
Thank you very much. And I think that's important to note for public service employees. Now I just want to turn to my last area of questioning. I grew up in Northern Alberta. I know the territories quite well. I spent many time in the Northwest Territories. And in the Northwest Territories, of course, there's oversight by the Auditor General to the systems there. This last year, between 2020 and 2021, there were 0 audits, 0 performance audits for any of the territories. Can you explain why?
I will look to Andrew maybe to add, but I do believe it's just a timing issue, to be quite honest. There was some difficulty in the territories in converting to virtual hearings, and so there was delays in some of the reports. We did not stop. We still do at least one performance audit in every territory every year. In fact, we have one territory we're going to be doing a couple in the coming year. So I believe it was just a timing issue. Andrew, am I correct in that?
Yeah, I can just add that there were also some territorial elections.
It can't be every year. Sorry, I just want to correct the record there. It's not every year because the record shows that 2020 to 2021 there were no audits. So not every year.
A very brief answer, please.
So in each territory, we try to have at least one performance audit every year. In terms of the reasons why there might have not been audits in particular territories, sometimes it's related to elections that happen or delays for whatever reason. In the context of the pandemic, I will say that the ability of our office to go and visit the territories has been affected, and that's a very important element of those northern audits because of the particular circumstances faced by the people.
Thank you.
Up there.
Thank you very much. Turning now to Mr. Patzer, you have the floor for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much. To the Auditor General, in your comments and in here, you talk a lot about the digital transformation that is ongoing in your office. I'm just wondering, can you just update the committee? When did that digital transformation begin? When do you project it to be completed?
Thank you very much. I'm happy to talk about that transformation. It actually started once we knew that we were going to be receiving additional funding. The transformation is a large one across the organization. As you may recall, when we were looking for funding, over the years when we didn't have money, we diverted resources from investing in our IT solutions. And so a big part of our digital transformation will be IT solution based. But it is really about what we do, how we do it, and how IT and data will help support the work that we do. So we're looking at our processes, how we report. It is so much bigger than just IT solutions. And so expenditures have started, but I do expect that the majority of them, which will be IT solution based, will be longer into the future. So probably 2-3 years out before we see some significant investments there. But it's already started. As I say, we're replacing our software now for working papers, and we've done a lot of work on our cyber security. And so there's been investments throughout the year.
Do you think that this investment is going to help increase your productivity going forward, so we'll get more reports for per dollar spent?
That is absolutely the intention. Some of the money right now has been foundational. We needed to make sure that our information and our systems remained secure. And it is about stabilizing some of it, replacing and decommissioning legacy systems, and then setting us up to bring on new tools that will make us more efficient and effective.
Thank you. In your new mission and vision statement, it's from 2020. It states that you'll be building connections with our stakeholders, and you say that the stakeholders are Parliament, the people of Canada, and the entities that you audit. So how do you plan to reach out and build those connections with each of these different stakeholders? And we'll start with just with the people of Canada. How do you plan to make those connections?
So one of the items to make connections with Canada, as I mentioned, is that we've opened up an area on our website for Canadians to submit their concerns and thoughts about topics that we can audit. I do have a senior panel of advisors that usually provide me advice on areas to audit and on messaging, and it's my intention to have that committee membership expanded and changed a little so that it represents Canada a bit better, that it will have representation across the country. And I do expect that all of our audit teams will engage with the individuals that we audit who represent Canadians, and that together we'll bring all of that back and inform our work and how we operate going forward. So that would be Canadians. If you'd like me to talk about MPs, as I mentioned, I started having discussions with many senators, which had not been done for many years across the organization. We met with senator groups individually over the last year. I am doing my best to do outreach with parliamentary committees. Mr. DeMarco, our Commissioner of the Environment and Sustainable Development, is doing a tremendous amount of outreach on his side of things. So he might want to speak to some of that as well.
I'm just going to quickly interject there, and I do kind of want to go back to this digital transformation issue, actually, because one of the big things that we're seeing right now is, a lot of people working from home. Obviously, people had to do that over the last couple of years with the pandemic. We all get that. We understand that. I'm just wondering if you are going to be auditing the performance of the department, though, over those couple of years to determine how productive people were working from home. And going forward, because we do realize, we do know that a lot of people will continue to be working from home, are you going to be focusing on the performance of people as they work from home versus working in the previous arrangements that they had?
So right now, it's not our intention to devote an audit to productivity of public servants. It's definitely something that we could consider as we look at individual programs when we go in and audit them. But we don't have intentions to have an audit on productivity throughout the pandemic. No.
Do you think for helping to make sure that we have more audits going forward, because you've got the funding that you were looking for, but as was alluded to earlier, the number of reports hasn't necessarily risen accordingly. I know you mentioned in a couple of years when you have the digital transformation completed, that will help your productivity and hopefully the department's productivity. But I'm just wondering, if we're not actually getting the bang for the buck with people working from home, is there going to, I hope that's something that we're going to consider looking at to make sure that we do.
Thank you. I'm just going to allow the auditor to provide a brief answer to that, please. Thank you, Ms. Hogan.
I guess my brief answer would be that you can measure value of our money invested in our organization in many ways, and it's not just in the number of audit reports. One audit report could be very large. For example, the efforts on Bill C2 that we will do. And if we had done that, it would probably be 7 or 8 individual audits. It will come out as one. And so I caution just calculating the number and not necessarily looking at the impact on the value in other ways.
Thank you very much. And our last member is Mr. Fragascatos. You have the floor for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to the witnesses. Ms. Hogan, in looking at your the departmental review, I noticed that homelessness will be a future focus of the office. I just wonder, how will the role of other levels of government be taken into account in future work, considering the fact that other levels of government play such a pivotal role in responding to that challenge?
You raise here a challenge that we see in many of our audits. We saw it throughout some of the pandemic audits, and we're definitely seeing it in our homelessness audit. When there is that need for collaboration and coordination amongst different levels of government, our ability to tackle some of those issues is strained, because we can only look at the efforts of the federal government and where federal money is being used. So it is an ongoing challenge, but it shouldn't deter us from looking at really important topics like homelessness.
Well, thank you for that. And I know that you have a constrained ability there, and this is not an instruction at all, but it's simply an observation. I think that really, when the public looks at something like homelessness, which is inherently challenged, to put it mildly, there is a need to understand it as something that various levels of government have a responsibility to address. So I would hope, if it's not an instruction, it is a hope maybe, that future reports really acknowledge the fact that other levels of government have a very pivotal role to play, perhaps even not even perhaps, from a jurisdictional perspective in terms of the Canadian Federation and how it operates. You know very well that the provincial and municipal governments are much more responsible in terms of dealing with the issue, although the federal government, considering its fiscal abilities, is in a very special place to assist, and the National Housing Strategy has been at play and yielded good results, but we need to certainly see more. I also want to ask you to shift focus. Your office's the greening government commitments is what I want to look at. Low carbon executive vehicles. How has this policy been used? And using the Treasury Board of Canada's Green Meeting Guide, what sort of things do you do differently to hold green meetings? I think, and a question simply because if we here on Parliament Hill and government as a whole is making the point about the importance of addressing climate change to the Canadian public, I think there's a need for the public to look to Ottawa and see what exactly is happening in terms of action here.
So I might turn to Lisa Lamarche to help me out with this answer if I don't go as far as you'd like me to go. But I do thank you first off for your hope. And I think that both Jerry DeMarco and I have heard you, because even climate change is an area where so many layers of government and every single individual plays a role. So thank you for sharing with us your thoughts. When it comes to greening meetings, well, I think like most organizations, we've all done a great job at it since many of us are staying home and we're not gathering together. And so a lot of our efforts that we had planned actually just didn't materialize because we're not in the office together. Prior to the pandemic, though, we were working very hard at making sure that people would bring their own utensils and glasses and anything that we used to a meeting might be compostable. And so we were always trying to do our part from that perspective on greening our meetings. But I think virtually we've all done a real big part now. So I don't know if you'd like, Lisa, to add anything more to your questions on that front, Mr. Chair.
Chair, with time permitting, if there is a desire among the there is a desire
certainly
to add to that, if the colleague wishes to add, then sure, it'd be great.
And there is time. There's about 45 seconds. Yeah.
Good.
We can't hear you, Lisa.
Mm-hmm.
Are we good now?
Yes, we are. Go ahead.
My apologies. As it relates to executive vehicles, there's only one executive vehicle in the organization, and we've already converted it to hybrid, I believe. So that is what we've done there. I think Karen gave a good summary around greening meetings. We developed our last sustainable development strategy for 2023 before the pandemic, and within that plan, we had committed to doing several assessments of our operations to assess how green they were and where there existed opportunities to further green those operations. At this point during the pandemic, that work was halted or not started because we want to wait to see the future of our work environment to do this assessment in a relevant way. I would offer that one of our more significant contributors to greenhouse gas emissions would be our business travel. So that is an area that we want to look closely at and evaluate ways that we can reduce the footprint in that area, either by the pandemic has demonstrated that we're able to do a lot of our work without traveling. So I think it challenges the future of travel and making sure that we do the travel that needs to occur, and that we don't do travel that can be done in a remote way. So those.
Thank you very much. That ends the second round. We have a few votes here. First, I just want to thank the Office of the Auditor General and everyone for being here today, for taking time to answer our questions. So thank you, and I'm sure we will see many of you, if not all of you, again soon in the next couple weeks, either here in committee or outside of the committee. Turning now to so you're welcome to stay. We're just going to have two very quick votes here. Turning now to the members. I ask, shall vote 1 carry?
On division?
I hear on division. On division, it's carried. Number 2, shall I report vote 1 under the House? Pardon me. Shall I report vote 1 under the Office of the Auditor General of Canada to the House?
On division. Whatever.
All right, then that is passed as well. So thank you very much. Again, thanks everyone for being here. From our witnesses, I'm going to suspend this meeting now. If members could remain at their place, I think I'm the only one that has to come back into the meeting, so I'm going to do that right away. So I'm just going to suspend the meeting now for a few minutes.
Sorry, Mr.
Yes,
Chair, just 1 minute. What we were going to do is just have the Vice Chair stay and release everyone else to just to discuss the schedule. Or no, you want to have everyone? Oh, we've got a draft.
Yeah, no, that's fine. But let's discuss that in. I'll just be a second. So I'm going to. I mean, since I'm the only one online, I'll come right back into it, and we can do that. So
okay. Yeah, my apologies. Yeah, if you want to do that, Gene, no worries.
Yeah, no trouble.